Welcome everyone to the Tri-Cities Chamber of Commerce 2021 Federal Election Candidates Debate for the riding of Port Moody, Coquitlam. Before I start, I'd like to acknowledge that we are gathering today on the unceded traditional territory of the Coquitlam First Nation, which lies within the shared territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Katzie, Musqueam, Keekite, Squamish, and Stalo peoples. My name is Leslie Kershane. I'm the CEO of the Tri-Cities Chamber of Commerce, and I'm very proud to be here today bringing to our membership and community this important debate. Tonight we will be hearing from our candidates in the riding of Port Moody Coquitlam about their party platforms and their plans for our community and our region, as they will be answering the questions you asked. For participating in the debate, candidates met the criteria as set by the Leaders Debate Commission, including their party having an elected MP at the time the election was called, or that the party received at least 4% of the vote in the last federal election, or 4% in the most recent polling. For this reason, there are other candidates that are not participating in this debate today, so for a full list of candidates, please visit elections.ca. Thank you to everyone joining us online. We have almost 100 of you already. We are streaming this event live to our Chamber's Facebook page and are recording the event to post to our YouTube channel afterwards. I would like to welcome and thank the candidates, Bonita Zarrillo, Nelly, Shin, and Will Davis for joining us tonight. And I also want to thank our Chamber staff, Westwood Plateau, Galactic Entertainment, and the Tri-Cities Community TV for making this event possible on such short notice. I will now present our moderator for the debate, Ryan Whittle, Vice Chair of the Chamber's Board of Directors. Ryan.
Thank you, Leslie. First, we'll quickly go over the format of tonight's debate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and their party's platform in an opening statement. After opening statements, our candidates will be asked a combination of questions. There are a number of questions that have been prepared by the Chamber and submitted by the community. We will be asking our candidates questions until our time here is up today. Based on a random selection, each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to the question. Debate will be closed if we get off topic, at which point we'll move on to the next question. To finish off, candidates will be given up to 90 seconds to make a closing statement at the end of the night. Candidates, are you ready? So our speaking order, as determined earlier today by a random draw, is as follows. First, Bonita Zarrillo, followed by Nelly Shin and Will Davis. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I respectfully acknowledge that I live and work on the unceded ancestral and traditional territory of the Coquitlam. The Canadians are facing serious challenges: the pandemic, a housing crisis, and growing inequalities that are leaving too many behind. Throughout it all, I've been here with you, alongside you, to fight for your small businesses, your families, and for housing for everyday people. Housing affordability is at a critical state here in the Tri-Cities. For decades, Liberal and Conservative governments have turned a blind eye to skyrocketing house prices and have left the uncontrolled housing market to push people out of their homes. The most vulnerable have been demo-evicted, pushed out of their stable rental homes, and redevelopment has left people unable to buy in or to stay in this community. I was on the doorstep of an airline pilot that could no longer afford to live in this community. Enough is enough. We need solutions. That is why, when Jagmeet Singh called to ask me to help in the fight for people, I said yes. Jagmeet and his team have delivered results in a crisis of a generation, making sure your families could pay your bills, businesses could keep their employees, and all the while, the Conservatives sat on the sidelines, questioning the reality of climate change. We can no longer accept delays on climate solutions. Under Justin Trudeau's Liberals, Canada's emissions went up. And all they have done is to ignore the bold action needed to fight this climate crisis. We have seen for decades the records of the Conservative and Liberal governments when it comes to solving real problems. They either delay or deny, and certainly disappoint. The NDP, on the other hand, have been steadfast and courageous in their commitment to people and to the planet, proving that when you send a New Democrat to Ottawa, we get things done. I'm ready to join Jagmeet Singh and his team to fight for you in Ottawa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before entering politics, I was a recording artist and high school teacher. I came to a crossroad in 2008 when I hungered for more meaning in my life. So I purged myself of my worldly belongings, including my home, let go of my dreams, and set out into the proverbial wilderness, living within limited means as an outreach missionary. My encounters with people experiencing homelessness, the hurting and marginalized, deepened my awareness of human suffering and the brokenness of our system. I discovered the joy of serving and realized my life assignment is to help heal our society. I'm Nelly Shin, your Conservative candidate for Port Moody, Coquitlam, and Morin-Belcara. It's been an honor serving you through a time of national crisis, and I'd be honored to continue serving you to secure your future and the prosperity of your children and grandchildren. As I've watched businesses struggling to overcome the pandemic, I remember the hardship my family experienced in the founding years of our business. So it's been a privilege to speak in Parliament on behalf of our local businesses like Fraser Mills Fermentation, Novo Textiles, and Monica's Vacation Creations, advocating for improvements to COVID benefits and domestic procurement. I've also fought to protect our waterways in response to fish kills and sewage contamination from Coquitlam to Stony Creek, where salmon come to spawn, and I've worked diligently to support victims of racism and domestic violence. As your representative, I will continue working together with constituents and local stakeholders to ensure our community is heard and supported in Parliament. With an impending fourth wave, there are still tough times ahead. Our policies in Canada's recovery plan will secure jobs and economic growth, housing, mental health, and the environment. A Conservative government will help Canadians transition safely, pragmatically, and united toward economic recovery. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelly. And finally, Will.
Good evening. Is this working? Yes. Good evening. I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the ancestral, traditional, and unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, and in particular the Coquitlam peoples. My name is Will Davis. I am your Liberal candidate for Port Moody, Coquitlam. We've chosen this community to raise our 5 children. I'm proud to represent a party that has secured our PPE and vaccine manufacturing capacity when the last Conservative government let that capacity disappear overseas. I'm proud to represent a party that asks the rich and big polluters to pay more without needing to trade other things to get there. Over the years, we've seen significant changes in Port Moody, Coquitlam. This change has brought opportunity and diversity, but also challenges, particularly in the areas of sustainability and affordability. We need a local voice, deeply rooted in our community. Having been here for almost 20 years, raising my family, living in Heritage Mountain, and now on Linton Street, right in central Coquitlam, we know we need to go to Ottawa with a voice that's rooted in this community. As a broadcaster with the CBC and as a small business owner, I've always focused on supporting and amplifying underrepresented voices, from BC artists to new Canadians to vulnerable seniors during the pandemic. As a founding member of Protect Coquitlam's Urban Forest, I am equally committed to fight against climate change and building a greener economy. And that's why I put my name forward as a Liberal candidate. We have a climate plan endorsed by Andrew Weaver, the past leader of the BC Green Party, as the only credible and science-aligned plan nationally. We have a childcare plan that will create new spaces we need while also serving families in our region cheaper daycare, 5 times cheaper. I'm Will Davis, and I'm proud to be here this evening.
Great, thank you, everyone. So our first question is on the topic of climate change. Our speaking order for this particular question will be Nelly, followed by Will, and finally Bonita. And our question is, what is your party's plan to reduce carbon emissions and to move Canada away from fossil fuels and invest in alternative energy sources? And what is your party's plan to retain workers who are dependent on the fossil fuel industry? Nelly, you have 90 seconds.
Sure, thank you very much. When it comes to climate change, we have to look at the practicalities, and we have to look at it from a global perspective. Fossil fuel that comes from Canada is the cleanest, one of the cleanest that the world can have. So if we do not allow fossil fuel and oil from Canada to be produced and exported, we're empowering countries that don't have such high standards to produce more carbon emissions. And on the other note, we need practical support from Environment Canada and climate change to have the resource capacity to actually test and hold incidents and companies or polluters, whoever it is, accountable. Because in my experience in dealing with DFO and Environment Canada regarding recent incidents in Coquitlam with overflow into Stony Creek of contamination, I have not been able to get answers. And this seems to be a culture that we need to work on. So I will be focusing in terms of helping with climate change to work more towards creating the resource capacity to inspect and enforce regulations. Thank you.
It is clear that a Conservative government would roll back emissions levels and targets to 2015 levels. The only country in the world that would roll back further than where everybody is going now. It is not a plan that the Conservatives have. We have a plan. We are speaking about climate change, biodiversity, and plastics and waste elimination. The plan that the Liberal Party has is built off of, since 2015, the greenest plan ever in Canadian history. We have targets, we have details, and we have investments. It's a realistic plan. It has targets that are going to be met. We are going to not only attack the environment crisis in terms of the consumer, we're also going to be going after big business and helping them transform their companies so they can have cleaner, efficient businesses. The green technology since 2015 until today is growing. It's a growing economy. It is the place to invest. It is what we need to do. I'm in this race because I have 5 children and I want to hand off to them a legacy of moving forward, a legacy of making a difference. We can change how we consume. We can change how we produce. We will not have. We will have no more emitting engine cars by 2035 being built in this country, and we will develop a plan that even BC Green, former BC Green leader Andrew Weaver, endorses as the most reasonable and efficient.
We need to fight the climate crisis like we want to win it. The climate crisis is putting everything we value at risk. Conservatives, a portion of them, are saying that the climate crisis isn't even real, and the Liberals are acting like it isn't. Mr. Trudeau's hypocrisy is staggering, declaring a climate emergency and then approving a pipeline just days later. We've got a plan with the NDP to fight the climate crisis like we want to win it, cutting emissions by more than half and meet the 1.5-degree target that scientists say is necessary to prevent catastrophe, creating hundreds and thousands of good jobs by investing in clean energy, energy-efficient affordable homes, electric transit, and zero-emission vehicles with infrastructure.
Excellent, thank you. So our next question is with respect to economic recovery. Our speaking order will be Will, followed by Bonita and Nelly. Many small businesses in the hardest hit sectors, including tourism, travel, and hospitality, will not recover until public health restrictions are lifted and economic activities return to normal. What is your party's plan to help businesses recover? Will?
Thank you. From day one, the Liberal government has had Canadians' backs, and we will continue to do so. From wage subsidies during the pandemic and rent support for small business, we've been there. I had a great conversation with a small business owner in Port Moody that owns a gym, and it's due to those very elements that they were able to sustain their business and stay open. We're going to do more. Canada's recovery and hiring program will allow companies, small and big, to hire back people that have lost their work or hire new people in those positions. This is important for moving forward, a recovery plan that allows businesses to go back and hire. Under the Liberal leadership, we've already seen 93% of people getting back into the workforce in their jobs, but there's more to do. And there's more help to tourism industries, to restaurant industries. We need to continue to help those small businesses move forward. The backbone of the economy is small business, and we need to continue to have those opportunities for them, those subsidies, those supports. We're also going to help with digital adoption. Small companies that want to make that transformation and get their business out online, we're going to go digital with them. We're going to support them all the way through.
Thank you. Bonita?
Thank you so much. We got real solutions to create jobs and make life better for workers across Canada. Let's start with daycare. We need daycare to get women back into the workforce. The women have been affected disproportionately during the pandemic, and we certainly know that the caring economy is very important going forward. I also wanted to talk a little bit about retrofitting, our plan related to climate on retrofits. There is so much opportunity to retrofit homes and businesses across Canada, and we are committed to doing that. Jagmeet Singh and his team have been there for Canadians throughout this pandemic. We've been there to ensure that the wage subsidy that the Liberals were offering at 10% was pushed to 75%, saving thousands of jobs in this country. We're ready to go and to help people and to support people in this post-pandemic after the fourth wave.
Thank you. Nelly?
I love this topic, even though it's a bit tragic that the travel sector and tourism have been so hard hit, as well as events industries. I remember going to bat numerous times for the travel industry workers, especially travel agents, who couldn't get the support they needed to the end. So we recognize that it'll take a while for them to transition, so we'll continue the support to support hard-hit sectors. And we will be providing the Main Street Business Loan to provide loans of up to $200,000. And the $60,000 Canada Emergency Business Account CEBA loan is too small for thousands of small and medium businesses. So Canada's Conservatives will immediately order a loan on similar terms, but offering up to 4 months of pre-pandemic revenue up to a maximum of $200,000. We'll forgive up to 25% depending on a company's revenue loss, and making the first $25,000 of our Canada Investment Accelerator refundable for small businesses, providing a 5% investment tax credit for any capital investment made in 2022 and 2023. It's a reality that it will take time, but we are here to make sure our businesses get to the other side of this pandemic, to see the light, because they are the pillars of our prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nelly. Our next question is on jobs, and our speaking order will be Bonita, followed by Nelly and Will. Many industries are facing a shortage of professionals, and it's getting harder each day to find and hire a workforce. What do you think has caused it, and how can you solve this problem? Bonita?
Thank you very much. The pandemic has certainly taken a toll on Canadians. And I just want to tell a story of, I was on a door this week, and there was a resident that has 3 businesses, and they got COVID. And they lost their businesses. They've lost their health. But you know what really she wanted to share with me about the trauma of the experience was the lack of community connection and the lack of the ability to touch a family member, a friend, even a nurse while she was in ICU. Right now, the community is suffering from the impacts of this pandemic, the impacts of losing their businesses, the impacts of losing all those rites of passages, whether it's weddings, birth, funerals. Unfortunately, during this time, Justin Trudeau decided that he was going to call an election. And this has really put a strain on the community. So we need to be there for people with supports now. I've heard a lot of talk about how difficult it is to get workers. Yes, it's difficult to get workers because the economy that the Conservatives and the Liberals have left us with after decades and decades of their governments has not raised the price of minimum wage. It has not made life affordable, livable for people in this community. They're suffering from COVID, and now they're suffering from a serious lack of wages that can support a family.
Thank you, Bonita.
When it comes to jobs and businesses having a hard time hiring employees or bringing them back to work, it's a very complex issue. The pandemic has been very complex. Some of it is that there's just a lack of high morale in the times we're in. Some of it is that during this time, people have taken the time to explore other options and follow other aspirations, perhaps that they didn't have the opportunity to explore before the pandemic. But we know the reality that we need workers in our businesses for them to operate and function. So we will be transitioning the benefits that people are having right now so that they can get back into the workforce, but also incentivizing job training for employers so that their jobs can be more fulsome and reflective of the changes that are happening and the needs that are in the companies. So we will double the apprenticeship job creation tax credit for the next 3 years to help create more places for apprentices, invest $250 million over 2 years to create the Canada Job Training Fund. The fund will provide grants to organizations including employers, apprenticeship, training delivery agents, unions, post-secondary institutions, and community organizations for projects that give laid-off workers immediate access to training, reach out to traditionally underrepresented groups, help tourism and hospitality workers who have been hard hit by the recession, and support the talent that...
Thank you, Nelly. Thank you.
I'm very happy to talk about this topic. In the Liberal platform, there are many means to which we will support Canadian workers. Coming off of Labor Day yesterday, I'm very pleased to say that our plan includes jobs in the green sector. We've already got $7 billion in exports in the green and clean tech sector, and we're going to continue to build that infrastructure so that we can have those good jobs. We're going to, in our platform, increase pay for people working in long-term care supporters to $25 an hour. We're going to hire and bring in hundreds of new doctors and nurses. We are going to build or rebuild 1.4 million new homes in Canada, creating more employment in that sector. We're going to be supporting with retraining for folks that are leaving one sector and going to another. We have support for artists as they try to get back out in front of crowds and get the support for them to be able to put food on their own tables and continue to be such an important cultural voice in our community. We're going to work on infrastructure. We all know Port Moody Coquitlam is in need of infrastructure to match the rapid growth with our wonderful transit system that comes through our riding and the West Coast Express. And also, we're going to support immigration and we're going to support new jobs for new Canadians coming here. By 2026, 26% of our workforce will be a new Canadian.
Thank you, Will. So moving right along, our next topic is childcare, and our speaking order will be Nelly, followed by Will and Bonita. The federal government has recently announced a plan to provide affordable childcare for $10 a day so that women and working parents can go back to work, among other benefits. What is your party position on this? And if not in favor, what is your alternative measure? Nelly?
Thank you. This is a very important topic. As I was sitting on the Status of Women's Committee, this topic came up numerous times because women want financial independence, and childcare is part of the solution to empower women, whether in business or anywhere else in the workforce. So it's good that we're talking about childcare, but also during the meetings, we heard that there are many diverse needs and unique needs that women have in the kind of work they do. It's not a one-size-fits-all childcare system that we need. There need to be many options. So my concern is that the Liberal government has promised childcare many, many times for many years, has not come through. But under a Conservative government, we will be meeting the needs of the unique needs of women in the workforce so that they could have their financial independence and that it would cater to the many needs that they have. Thank you.
The Liberal Party has promised childcare in the past, and it was going to pass in 2006. As a father of 5 that had children exactly in the age group, I would have truly benefited from that. So would have my wife. Now we see that at the time we got no childcare and we got 10 years of Stephen Harper. Well, this is not what is in the works now. What we're going to do is what's already happening. There are 8 provinces that have signed agreements, including the very first. The NDP in British Columbia signed the first agreement to the tune of $3.4 billion to start building childcare. I know that cities in this community are interested in finding spaces and growing childcare in our community. It's essential to getting our economy moving quicker for women specifically to get back into the workforce. It is a winning opportunity for all of us. And also, it's a winning opportunity to train and bring into the workforce new young early learners and childcare specialists. It's a job that we have already started. There are 8 provinces signed on, and we're going to move forward with this plan when re-elected. Thank you.
Parents in this country should not have to worry about affordable and high-quality childcare. I was living in Montreal in 1997 when childcare for all was offered at $5 a day, and it changed my life as a woman and a working mother. My daughter, who is now 26, was the first in our family to take advantage of that $5 a day daycare. And she, like I said, is now 26 years old, and we are still waiting for affordable, quality childcare in Canada. And the Liberals promised even before my daughter was born in 1993 to do childcare. A couple of weeks ago, Justin Trudeau showed up right here in this community and tried to say that they were going to bring childcare. We've waited long enough. As working parents, as working mothers, too many of us have waited too long for childcare. Jagmeet Singh and his team know the importance of women being able to get out and work and also to have high quality daycare for all, and we're going to do it. We're going to make it happen quickly.
Thank you. So moving right along, our next topic of discussion, another one that's on the minds of many Tri-City families, is housing affordability. And so our order for this question will be Will, followed by Bonita and Nelly. Housing affordability is a critical issue in Canada, especially in BC. If elected, what measures would you take to provide affordable housing for our communities? Will?
Thank you. The Liberal government is going to, has already and will deliver 1.4 million new and rebuilt homes in the next term. That is 30% more than what the Conservative plan is. And it is almost 3 times more than what the NDP have put forward. 1.4 million new builds. And we're going to incentivize people to build in municipalities. We're going to see that those that are growing their housing supply faster will be part of this, and they'll be rewarded for it. Increase in densification. These are the benchmarks for investing in communities that need housing. Speed up approvals and times. Tackle NIMBYism. Establish inclusionary zoning bylaws. We're going to work with municipalities and provinces to build new homes. In this riding, we need more supply. We need more supply, and this plan will provide that supply. We're also going to make sure that it's affordable, and there's enough stock in the riding to match the infrastructure that we have, which is the SkyTrains, West Coast Express. This community is preparing to grow, and we need to be there, and the Liberal Party will be.
Thank you. Bonita?
Everyone in Canada should have a safe and affordable home. And I spoke about it in my opening statements. This is a crisis in the Tri-Cities. We're talking about less and less people being able to have a roof over their head at night. And I know the Liberals are talking tonight about building 3 times the amount of housing, 1.4 million or something like that. We need housing right now. We need rental housing right now. The redevelopment that's gone on in our community and across Canada has pushed stable rental housing out of our community. We don't have enough stable rental housing. We need to build purpose-built, affordable rental that the Liberals and the Conservatives have turned their back to for almost 40 years. So the NDP government are going to invest in 500,000 units of affordable housing. It's realistic. The cities are redlining right now, trying to get supply on the market, and the supply that we're getting out on the market is luxury condos that is not suiting the needs of the entire community. So the NDP is going to get to work on affordable housing, on purpose-built rental housing, and we're going to retrofit to get your energy bills down.
This is an issue that steals hope from for our young people. I've heard so many parents and grandparents worry about the housing issue, the housing crisis. And I have spoken in the House on this matter with tears, actually, because I want our next generation to have a dream to hope for. So to combat the housing crisis, we will be building 1 million homes in the next 3 years. We'll review the extensive real estate portfolio of the federal government, the largest property owner in the country with over 37,000 buildings, and release at least 15% for homes. We'll build more homes near publicly funded transit, provide more Canadians with a path to homeownership by making it easier for them to get a mortgage. We will fix the mortgage stress test. We'll also ban foreign investors from buying homes here if they're not planning to move to Canada, and encourage foreign investment in affordable, purpose-built rental housing for Canadians, stabilize the real estate market by increasing the number of homes being built and addressing unfair and corrupt practices that have driven up prices such as money laundering. We'll address the soaring cost of renting a home by partnering with municipalities and the private sector to bring new rental units into the market, and we'll be a reliable partner in addressing the housing needs of Indigenous communities and implement a for Indigenous, by Indigenous housing strategy in the spirit of reconciliation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As acknowledged at the beginning of this evening, we're gathered here this evening on the unceded traditional territory of the Coquitlam First Nation. So our next question is with respect to reconciliation. Our speaking order will be Bonita, followed by Nelly and Will. With the revealing of tragic deaths of Indigenous children at residential schools across the country, what is your party's plan for meaningful reconciliation with Indigenous peoples? Bonita?
I wanted to start to talk about women and girls and just the impact of racism and years of generational trauma on women and girls. I do a lot of work with women and girls, and we know that the supports have not been there. And as part of my work on the Metro Vancouver Indigenous Relations committees in this region, we heard about Indigenous women homeless because they didn't want to leave their children. Their options for homes meant that they needed to give up their children. It just can't stand. So when we talk about reconciliation, we need to hear the truth. We need to hear the truth of what is really happening in our communities and across Canada as it relates to Indigenous people and women and girls. We are leaving women and girls behind. Justin Trudeau's talked a lot about the relationship, about reconciliation. He has not taken the action needed. We all know about the clean drinking water that is not available. Imagine the impact on children, on mothers that are trying to bathe and feed their children, are trying to care for their elderly parents, are trying to cook. We need to take serious action on reconciliation, and the NDP is there to do that.
Thank you. Nelly?
This is a topic that grips my heart every time we talk about it. When I was on the Standing Committee for the Status of Women, we did hear from Indigenous women. And I asked the minister why the Liberal government has not tabled the final report on the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Because they said they were re-traumatized. Their hopes were raised when the government said that they wanted to hear their stories. And the families of survivors told their stories with the expectation that something would be done, but it wasn't. So they were re-traumatized. And they already struggle with hope. There's so much youth suicide and the poor living conditions they experience. This is unacceptable. When you make a promise, you have to keep it. So I will be making great efforts to work together with our local Coquitlam Chief and Council to learn directly from them what is the course that they would like to see and include them in the dialogue in healing our Indigenous women and girls, stopping domestic violence, stopping that intergenerational trauma that keeps recurring. And regarding the residential schools and the unmarked graves, I don't think there's any word that could explain the grief that I carry and many people carry, except to say it is time to restore their dignity and give them the fair voice that they need at every table of decision making. Thank you.
Thank you.
No relationship is as important to Canada than the relationship with the Indigenous peoples. Over the past year and a half of the COVID pandemic, it has revealed a deepened social, health, and economic disparities in the nation-to-nation relationship and with Indigenous peoples. We need to confront these legacies of residential schools. We need to support our Indigenous nations and allow them to become stronger and autonomous. And we continue to do that. We have no longer any boil water advisories in British Columbia. And while it is still an ongoing challenge and hard work, we've gotten to 80% of those homes, 70% done, and another 10% that is in final stages. And every single water advisory is being addressed, all except 2 across the country. This is a marked difference from what we saw with the Conservatives for a decade. This is, as I said earlier, with my children, we have two big pieces that is filling our hearts. We know we need to be leaders to start a real fight against the climate crisis. And we know this file, this life that we lead, a nation-to-nation relationship with the Indigenous, needs to be at the top of our list, and we need to make sure that that is something that we can pass a legacy on of change and truth and reconciliation.
Thank you, Will. With that, we'll move on to our next topic, which is the budget. Our speaking order will be Nelly, followed by Will and Bonita. And our question this evening is, with the federal deficit soaring, how does your party propose to balance the budget? Nelly?
Under the Liberal government, we've been living in a debt economy. Before the pandemic, we were in a mess. The pandemic, it was necessary to provide the supports that people needed to get through. So how are we going to tackle this? We tackle this, my party is planning to tackle this over a 10-year plan. And it will take the bolstering of our economy through our businesses, providing the supports they need, to make sure that we have a plus and not a minus ongoing. We need to get out of this recession. It just takes responsibility to balance the books. Justin Trudeau continues to let Canadians down, and this needs to stop. Canadians can be confident that Canada's recovery plan will secure their future by recovering millions of jobs and introducing policies that result in better wages and help struggling small businesses get back on their feet. We will get us out of the recession. And Canadians who are worried about their future know that we will balance our books again.
Thank you, Nelly. Will?
Thank you. Every part of this platform that the Liberal Party has laid out in front of Canadians includes mechanisms to build back better, to do more for Canadians, to create green jobs, green opportunities in the clean tech sector and the green sector, for example. We expect to see direct results of childcare bringing more women back to the workforce and into our economy sooner, which is only another case of investing in people and in families to bring us back better. We also know that we're going to support economic immigration, and we're going to get the brightest and the best coming to our country because this is a great place to live. And they'll want to be part of an economy that's booming, that's growing. We're going to invest in infrastructure to build back better. We're going to go and make sure that we make the big banks and the big insurers pay their fair share. This plan is a plan that is part of a recovery from what we had to do, which was we had the backs of Canadians through COVID. We supported Canadians and small business, the backbone of the Canadian economy, through the pandemic, and we're not going to stop. We're going to continue to support and build back better.
Bonita?
I'm not sure if I heard those comments correctly, but I think I heard that if we get daycare, that women will carry the burden of paying more of the taxes because they'll be at work. The economy definitely has not been working for everyone. We know it's been working for the ultra-wealthy, even through this pandemic. We know that those in the stock market that have been able to invest in the stock market, the ultra-wealthy that have been able to flip properties, they've been doing just fine. But the rest of us have been carrying the burden. The NDP has a plan for a fair and just tax system that is going to close the loopholes on the ultra-wealthy that have benefited from offshore investment, that have benefited from consultants that can help them manage their money. We are going to tax that ultra-wealthy just a tiny little bit to take the burden off of the rest of us. That's our plan. The NDP has a record. NDP governments have a record of having the best balanced budgets, and we are going to get out of this economy that has not been working for people, conservative after liberal, after conservative, after liberal governments. We are going to make the ultra-wealthy pay their fair share.
Thank you, Bonita. So, our next question is on the topic of immigration. Our speaking order will be Will, followed by Bonita and Nelly. If elected, what are your party's plans to increase immigration to BC to help labor market demands so our businesses can thrive? Will?
Immigration only makes us stronger. Immigration is at the heart of where our country will grow and prosper in the future. Diversity and new ideas come from our new Canadian friends who find it so desirable to make their home here in Canada. We welcome that. We're going to support that. We're going to make it easier. We're going to expand the pathways that exist already. We're going to make sure that the crucial economic engine that is new Canadians are supported. The skilled workers, the educated immigrants, those folks that are coming here for a future for themselves and their children have vested interest to be shoulder to shoulder with us, moving forward, growing our economy, working for all of us. So when we continue to develop our immigration plans in government moving forward, we'll continue to make economic immigration important and make sure that it's attractive for new Canadians to arrive here and find a place where they can join the middle class and exceed the middle class.
Thank you. Bonita?
We need a compassionate and fair immigration system. The federal government hasn't been fair on immigration. We haven't kept families together. The Liberal Party has talked a good game on immigration, but their policies are keeping families apart and leaving newcomers and refugees behind. On the doorsteps, I'm hearing from families that have had to go through the pandemic with no childcare support from their families overseas, with no connection from their families overseas. And this is a lingering issue around our immigration policy. We want people here with skills. We ask them to come. We don't accept their credentials. We don't accept their parents. We don't often accept their wives, their husbands. We need a fair and just immigration system in this country. And the NDP is committed to keeping families together to help immigrants contribute to this economy. We know in our care economy, a lot of it is driven by immigrants, and we don't pay them enough. They're working multiple jobs just to try to get by without the care and compassion of their support of their families here in Canada with them. And lastly, we need to do our fair share on welcoming refugees. And I'm just going to have to say it again, that we knew Afghanistan was going to happen days before the Liberal government called an election. And instead of caring for people, we decided, or the Liberal government decided, that we were going to go into an election. It's devastating for those families. It's devastating for our immigrants that have had to work the front lines.
Thank you. Nelly?
On the top of immigration, it rings home for me because I would not be here today if we didn't have the opportunity, my family and I, to leave South Korea and come here when I was 5 years old. And this country has given us great opportunities. And today I can represent my fellow Koreans and other racialized Canadians and immigrants with the experience I have. One of the problems that I've seen is that there's such a huge backlog with IRCC. That needs to be cleaned up. And under a Conservative government, we will have more efficacy with that. I know that many immigrants come to Canada with many credentials, whether it's education or job skills, but they have not been able to find work that matches them There's been a lot of sacrifice. Erin O'Toole announced the Conservative plan to strengthen credential recognition for newcomers and advance human rights around the world. Helping newcomers maximize their success by allowing them to work in their field of knowledge and expertise is good for Canada and our economy. To help remove barriers for the skilled professionals we need, Canada's Conservatives will launch a credential recognition task force, and this will bring more equity across the board for the immigrants who come here and contribute so much to build our economy and contribute to our cultural heritage.
Thank you, Nelly. So, following along from our last question on immigration, our next topic is with respect to diversity and inclusion. Our speaking order will be Bonita, followed by Nelly and Will. So our question this evening is, what specific measures would you take to make our community, British Columbia, and Canada more diverse and inclusive? Bonita?
I'll start by saying that the NDP candidates, the 338 of them that are running across Canada, are the most diverse set of candidates that we've ever had. We have over 50% women, we have people with disabilities, we have all races, all genders, we have a wide variety, and we all have heard before, if you can't see it, you can't be it. For too long, we haven't been able to see our community reflected in our governments. This is the number one step that we can take, that we can have a government with lived experiences that understand the needs of the community. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to support those 338 candidates that are running across Canada, and I am so looking forward to a government that reflects the diversity in our communities.
Thank you. Nelly?
As a racialized representative, with the incidents of George Floyd, with rising anti-Asian hate, I've taken a lot of time to reach out to our immigrant communities or ethnic communities. And something I heard over and over is that there are not enough voices at the leaders' circles, at decision makers' tables. So I have already begun consulting with the Black Canadian community in British Columbia and different Asian communities to provide mentorship for the youth, to help them find equal opportunities in places of leadership so that they could better represent their diverse needs, so that Canada would truly represent in our leadership what is here with multiculturalism and the many diverse cultures that we have. It is an honor to live in a country that is pluralistic and diverse on many levels. And it would be my honor to continue to build those bridges and pave the way to help our racialized communities and their youth to come to the leaders' tables. Thank you.
Will?
The Liberal Party of Canada has committed to ending racism and discrimination in all its forms. And we're committed to work with those that need to have a voice in government, in business, in our communities. It's important that we understand that we have real support already and continued support with a move forward government that includes support for Black Canadians, with investments for Black researchers, racialized artists and journalists, and implementing the Black-led Endowment Fund to help Black-led community organizations. We're also going to continue the fight against systemic racism and discrimination, combating hate in all its forms, breaking down the systems of barriers in the workforce, and investing in the success of all Canadians from diverse backgrounds. It's also important to note that we're going to be there for our LGBTQ+ brothers and sisters and all people of in that community, and continue to move forward with a out-and-out ban on conversion therapy that is stalled currently, but will move forward day one of a new Liberal government.
Thank you, Will. So our next question is about the top local priority. Our speaking order will be Nelly, followed by Will and Bonita. So, if successful in this election, what would be your first priority to achieve for this community? Nelly?
That's a very challenging question because there are many things that need to be taken care of. I mean, I don't think I could answer that with one priority because, quite honestly, there are so many. But one of those things is affordability. With inflation, with rising inflation, life is less affordable for Canadians. And what will help that is making sure that we don't live in a debt economy, but a paycheck economy, to be able to help the businesses get off their feet and succeed again. This pandemic has put a huge financial burden on many families, and we don't need life to be less affordable. But if there is something else I could add to this, it would be to make sure that our local environmental issues are mitigated, that we're working together, all tiers of government, to protect our waterways, to make sure the infrastructure is taken care of, that they're upgraded, that we're investing in the materials, the engineering, and the science to make sure our infrastructure is not a problem for our environment. These are some of the local issues I've already been working on, and I look forward to the honor of continuing to work on these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelly. Will?
From day one of the pandemic, the Liberal Party has had the backs of Canadians. From day one, for me, it'll be the same. We need to finish the fight against COVID as a priority, and then move forward and support families, small businesses, people, childcare. We need to put all these things in front of us and make sure that they're happening and moving forward. We need to close the fight against COVID to start as a priority. In this riding, raising 5 children, being rooted here for close to 20 years, we know that affordability is essential to this riding. At some point, with all these great SkyTrain stations and all this rapid transit and support, including West Coast Express, we know we need to make sure there's infrastructure to match that investment. We're going to be there in Ottawa fighting for that, fighting for us, getting those things here, making life affordable for us here. This is our community. This is our hometown. I've raised a family here, and my goal is to make sure that my children have the opportunity to raise their children here. And maybe one day I can bring my grandchildren to those same soccer fields that I brought my children to.
Thank you, Will. Bonita?
Well, climate change is a definite cost of entry into a race to be running for federal office right now. So definitely fighting climate change, and we have gone through the worst forest fires, the worst heat deaths this summer. This is definitely an area that needs to be addressed. Right here in this community, it's housing. We need to get housing. We need to get people into homes. Not even that we need to get housing built, we need to get people into homes. We need to get people into purpose-built rental. This is an initiative that I've already started at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. I've been sitting with them for the last 6 years. We are going to get stable, purpose-built rental in this community that's affordable, and we're going to get it soon. When I get elected to Ottawa, this will be my #1 initiative. And I just want to speak to the infrastructure. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities has known for years that we don't have enough federal funding to build infrastructure in our community. The Conservatives are talking about municipal infrastructure. They have not even visited the local municipalities in their 2-year term here. So if we want to get real around housing, we're going to do it with the NDP, and if we're going to get real around municipal infrastructure, we better be talking to the cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonita. So I have received word that we have time for a bonus round. Everyone seems quite excited by that. So our speaking order with this will be Will, followed by Bonita and Nelly. And our question is as follows. If elected, what would you do to help solve the homelessness crisis in your community? To build more supportive housing and to provide adequate health treatment for those in need? Will, I'll let you start us off there.
That's quite the bonus question, my friend. Of course, this is a very important issue for all of us. We need to make sure that we are compassionate and we are supportive for those that need housing, that need support to in many different ways, including mental health, including addiction issues. So in our community, we need to make sure that there is available further beds, further services. That's why we have committed in a health plan to support Canadians to invest in mental health issues. Mental health is health, and we are going to be there to support Canadians with those issues. So I think it's important that we remember that it is a time, excuse me, it is a time in our community where we need to be cognizant that we're coming off of a once-in-a-century experience and that people are in need. People need support, and that has been exacerbated through COVID. And we have a plan to make sure that we're there to support those that need the help.
Thank you, Will. Bonita?
Thank you. Well, in the NDP, I'm part of a team. It's a very big problem, it's a very big challenge, and I'm part of a team. So I'll be working with the team to face this problem with compassion, getting to work now with all levels of government, the not-for-profits, our community partners, to get people into housing, also to get pharmacare activated. We have been waiting years for pharmacare. We have a very strong housing and construction industry in this province, and those construction workers don't necessarily have access to pharmacare. We have an opioids crisis, over-indexed with our trades. More of our trades, our trades are suffering from the opioid crisis. They're experiencing pain. They can't get medication. They can't get a doctor. They're turning potentially to opioids. We have a serious issue in this community, can't be solved with one person alone. I'm part of a team that's going to face it head on with compassion and caring, pharmacare, healthcare for all.
Thank you. Nelly?
I'd like to begin by giving a shout out and a thank you to Polly Cryer and the Tri-Cities Homelessness Task Force. I've been on some of their calls and just so impressed with the compassion in our community to work through some of these issues. And one of the things I was very saddened about, I had volunteered for the Cold Wet Mat program in the winter months, and because of COVID, we couldn't have it. So COVID certainly has made the homelessness situation worse. But this is something that we have to tackle. I agree with Bonita. It has to be tackled as a team. It's not just one tier of government. But what I do believe is that, like many social challenges we have, there isn't a continuum. Everything, for some reason, is solved piecemeal. But we need a continuum talking about prevention, the mental health piece, talking about the shelters, but also the transition and the recovery stage for those who are on the streets to be able to be restored, to live life to the fullest, to their best capacity. And as Conservatives, we will be re-implementing the housing first approach, which has been watered down by the current federal government, to aid in the fight against Canada's addictions crisis. We'll revise the federal government's substance abuse policy framework to make recovery its overarching goal. And we will have many innovative ways of tackling this problem. It's not going to be solved overnight, but it will take a lot of compassion.
Thank you, Nelly. Thank you. All right, everyone. Now is time for our closing remarks. You'll each have 90 seconds to sum up your position. And our speaking order will be Bonita, followed by Nelly and Will. Bonita?
I've heard a lot about plans, promises, and task forces tonight. But how can we trust these plans this time? We have real challenges. Justin Trudeau promised pharmacare in 2019. Now it's not even in the platform. He promised childcare, but we've heard that from the Liberals since 1993. He made big promises during the election, then let you and your family down. He can no longer be trusted. And the Conservatives, they just want to take us backwards. Even in our own riding, the Conservative did not stand against the conversion therapy, did not stand on the with the conversion therapy ban. Just not acceptable. And the Liberal candidate did not stand against homophobia when he ran for the BC Liberals. Over the past 2 years, Jagmeet Singh and the NDP have fought for people and are ready to take bold action now on climate change. I'm ready to join him in Ottawa and fight for you. Vote NDP. And I just want to take a second, I think I have time, to thank the Chamber staff and all those behind the scenes, and as well as my opponents tonight for this very important debate.
Thank you, Bonita. Nelly?
I'd like to thank the Tri-Cities Chamber of Commerce for hosting this panel. Healthy discussion and debate is vital to the strength of our democracy. And I'd also like to thank all the business owners out there for persevering. Canada's future heavily depends on your success. Canada's recovery plan will help businesses grow, create jobs, make life more affordable, and move us from a debt economy to a paycheck economy. And rather than punishing small business owners with heavy taxes and red tape, we will reward Canadian entrepreneurs, innovation, and made-in-Canada products. A Conservative government is the only government that will secure our economy and the prosperity of Canadians. A Liberal NDP coalition will not secure our future. As I've been going door to door, I've come to learn that this election is about the hunger of Canadians for authenticity and real solutions. People are tired of smear campaigns, divisiveness, and slander. People want leaders who have a vision, a heart, wisdom, and the graciousness to work with others to get things done. I ask for your vote to secure accountability and positive leadership that transcends politics and gets things done to secure your future and the future of your loved ones. And it would be an honor to continue serving you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelly. Will?
Ryan, thank you for hosting and moderating tonight, and congratulations to our new CEO at the Tri-City Chambers, and thank you all here for making this happen tonight. I'd also like to thank Nelly and Bonita for a very good conversation. I'm rooted in this community. I live here. I have been, I was the president of 3 PACs at 3 different schools during COVID. I have coached 3 dozen teams in the Tri-Cities in several different sports. I support my community through challenging to keep our urban forest alive. I am here for us. We need to make sure that this riding has someone going to Ottawa who will vote for UNDRIP, not against it, who will vote to ban conversion therapy, and also who will vote for people's right to choose in their last stages of life. These are important things. These are the values of our community. We want to have affordable places to live. We want to make sure that we have an opportunity to welcome more and more of these young families that I've met on the doorsteps with their strollers to get the chance to move into the home of their dreams. Every Canadian deserves a home. And we're here for Canadians, just like we were through the pandemic. We're going to be here moving forward. I'm not going to Ottawa for a scrap. I'm going there for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Well, thank you everyone for watching. On behalf of the Tri-Cities Chamber and staff, I wanted to give a warm thank you to our candidates. It takes great courage to run for office and work to serve our country and our community. For everyone out there, we want to make sure that you get out and vote on September the 20th. and visit www.elections.ca to find the nearest voting location to you. Have a great night.